If this season goes poorly, it could lead to an internal examination of the Heat's longest-tenured pairing, writes Ira Winderman of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. In an off-season mailbag, Winderman says the entire organization, including head coach Erik Spoelstra, understands that the team's performance during the last 2 years, including back-to-back number 8 seeds and pair of first-round playoff exits, is not to the franchise's lofty standards. Jimmy Butler's impact on those outcomes can't be overlooked, but Winderman also suggests that the coming season could be make or break for the Tyler Herro/Bam Adebayo duo. Herro had a career year last season, averaging personal highs in points, 23.9, and assists, 5.5, per game while making his first All-Star team, but that coincided with Adebayo posting his lowest scoring year since the 2019-20 season. Most importantly, it didn't lead the team to wins. Miami had a 37-45 regular season record, its worst mark in a decade. Winderman notes in his mailbag that the trade for Norman Powell was a win-now move designed to bring in more reliable offense, and that there will be expectations for the team to show signs of growth in the first full season of the post-Butler era. We have more from the Heat. Nikola Jovic understands the Heat are taking a risk by allowing him to represent Serbia in this year's Eurobasket tournament and is grateful for both the opportunity and the precedent set by former Miami guard Goran Dragic, writes Winderman. You're letting someone play for their country, paying them a lot of money, and they're important to you, Jovic said. An injury would definitely be a setback for them. But, by chance and to my great fortune, I'm part of the Miami team that had Goran Dragic. The Heat expressed that Dragic always came back from international tournaments a better player, a pronouncement which gives Jovic confidence in himself and his development. The fourth-year forward is expected to play a large role with the Serbian team, which won the bronze medal at the 2023 World Cup, and he hopes that will help him solidify a more consistent role with the Heat. This way, I enter the new NBA season already in game rhythm. I just keep going, he said. Also set to participate in Eurobasket is Heat shooting guard Pelle Larsson, who will represent Sweden not long after playing for Miami in Summer League. Winderman isn't worried about the workload for Larsson, especially since the team let him out of his summer duties 4 days early to join the Swedes. Rather than being nervous about the grind of going from Summer League to Eurobasket to training camp, the Heat are excited to see what the 24-year-old can do as a leading man in the games, Winderman writes. Simone Fontecchio has arrived in Folgaria, in northern Italy, to join the Italian Eurobasket squad, writes Michele Nespoli of Sportando. However, he will be unable to start training with them until Wednesday, July 30th, as stipulated by the NBA's regulations in regards to FIBA competition. Fontecchio has chosen to report to the team early to be in closer communication with them, as he did in 2023. Replacing the best and most decorated three-point shooter in team history will not be an easy task for the Miami Heat to accomplish. However, part of the solution, at least in the short term, could be hidden in plain sight. It'd be outrageous to suggest that the Heat is easily going to replace Duncan Robinson after he agreed to a sign-and trade to the Detroit Pistons earlier this offseason. It could take them a while to find another shooter that gifted. Nevertheless, I can't help but wonder if Alec Burks, of all options, could emerge as the most logical replacement for Robinson. Even if it is just for one season, Alec Burks could work in a gap year for Miami. As the Heat prepares for what most expect to be a gap year for the franchise, retaining a player like Burks could make sense. Coming off an underrated season, Burks could be the best possible short-term replacement for Robinson. If the Heat need shooting, Burks could be their simple answer. This past season with Miami, Burks averaged 7 points per game on 43% shooting from three-point range. It wasn't a huge volume, but averaging 4 threes per game and hitting over a 40% clip is not bad. Burks is not going to be the complete answer to the Heat losing Robinson, but he could be a part of it that helps the team retain at least some deep shooting threat heading into next year. Still a free agent, the Heat could easily sign him for the veteran's minimum. It's understandable that the Heat may want to keep their options open with their final roster spot, but Burks could help address one of their bigger issues from last season that is probably only going to get worse after the loss of Robinson. The Heat desperately need three-point shooting. The Heat weren't a terrible three-point shooting team last season, but were just average. They were average in three-point percentage, makes, and attempts. Not great. That probably played a huge part in the team's overall offensive efficiencies. That's probably only going to get worse after the loss of Robinson. He was clearly the team's best three-point threat, and the way defense's game plan against the Heat will certainly change now that he's no longer in the picture. If this area goes unaddressed for the rest of the summer, there's a chance that the Heat could be in the running for one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the league. The theoretical lack of spacing will also likely hurt their overall offense. The addition of Norman Powell will certainly help give the offense an added boost, but there's no question the Heat needs to shore up their three-point shooting. Burks may not be the most ideal option, but he's probably the most logical one at this point. He's certainly a player the Heat should strongly consider re-signing before the start of the new season. The Miami Heat have casually been linked to LeBron James over the last couple of months, as whispers continue to spread about his potential discontent in Los Angeles. However, as he inches closer and closer to the open market, the Heat's stance on LeBron is going to become clearer in the next few months. From all indications, it does seem as if there's a very real chance that LeBron could be entering his final season in a Los Angeles Lakers uniform. Longtime NBA insider Mark Stein doesn't believe that LeBron is going to end his career in a Lakers uniform. And if that's the case, a team like the Heat will be in a great position to potentially make a play for him, whether that's via trade before the 2026 NBA trade deadline or in free agency next year. The Heat have positioned themselves to be flexible enough to pursue both avenues. If Miami has any level of interest in LeBron, we're going to find out just how much over the next few months. Considering the Heat will be under immense pressure to make a big move, LeBron can't be considered off the table by any means. The Heat must make a big move in the next 12 months. With the way the last couple of years have gone, there's been a bad narrative growing around the idea that the Heat can't close the deal on star players. And to be quite honest, the evidence is quite overwhelming between failed pursuits of Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, and Kevin Durant, among others. But heading into this season, all of that could change. The Heat are finally in a spot where they have the flexibility to make a big move. Over the next few months, that position is only likely to improve, especially considering the possible other moves they could make regarding Andrew Wiggins' future. There's a very real chance that the Heat will be sitting in a prime position to make a move for a star player. Could, or will LeBron factor into those plans at all? At this point, that's difficult to predict. However, if Miami wanted, it could strongly pursue a reunion with LeBron. And if it does get to that point, LeBron could be one of the most realistic possibilities on the table. You'd imagine that the Heat almost have to figure out a way to make a move for a star player in the next 12 months. Maybe LeBron is not at the top of their list, but he could be entertained if Miami struggles to find realistic options. At the very least, it's worth keeping an eye on LeBron's situation with the Lakers. Make no mistake, we're going to find out an awful lot about the Heat's feelings about LeBron, especially if he ends up being one of the most available star players on the market.